second.
So I think the line of the day so far came courtesy of, I think it was Ian Bishop in commentary, when he said that from Kabul to Kandahar, they're all going to be celebrating and celebrating hugely. I think that's the line that really sums it up far better than any of us could. But we're not here to sum things up. We're here to have a very long and very interesting discussion on what has been a very long and very interesting virtual quarterfinal that has knocked Australia out of the T20 World Cup semi-final reckoning, and it's put Afghanistan into the semis, the revenge, as it were. We were talking about India's revenge. Afghanistan, by the way, have taken another sweet revenge on the Aussies, because remember, it was the Aussies who knocked them out of the reckoning for the semis in the ODI World Cup in India. Now they've done exactly that with that win, not only against Bangladesh, but also by beating Australia and ensured their safe passage into the semis. What a game this was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best things about this Afghanistan team is that they have really carried on their form, they achieved in the 2023 World Cup. And that's the best part about any, I would say, team that rose from the associate ranks, now making their way into the international arena, not just, being there in those World Cups, but then also making sure that they're doing well, beating those big teams. Starting with the 2023 World Cup, they beat the likes of Pakistan, Sri Lanka, took Australia very much to pushed Australia very much to the limit. And then look at the way how they have gone about their business so far. They beat New Zealand. They actually knocked them out of the T20 World Cup with a big way. Now they've done really well by beating Australia and Bangladesh. So kudos to Afghanistan for their magnificent performance. And hands down, I think one thing that we can say now unarguably that Afghanistan are the second best Asian team so far.
I mean, we were saying it, I remember, even during the ODI World Cup in India, saying that if you're talking about, purely team performances, then Afghanistan have a very good claim to being the second best team in Asia. And that included Pakistan, even in the ODI format, because Pakistan, in that format, not really one of the big teams in recent times. They've often struggled. And in T20s, we knew, of course, margins are so fine. Afghanistan were always going to have a chance. But even then, the way they've done it, the way they've actually gone about with their business, it's been truly superb. And this game really was ebbing and flowing. Let's be honest. I mean, you talk about the start of it. Bangladesh went hard because they knew that if they chased down this target in 13 overs, it'll be they would be in the semifinals. That's how small the
Yes.
margins were. Because if they had chased it down in that time period, and don't forget there weren't that many runs to play with, if they had gotten there, then we'd be talking about Bangladesh making it to the semifinals. That is actually next level, because again, this is a Bangladesh team who have struggled. I mean, they're one team who you can't say have regressed. You can say they've stayed at the same level ever since they've
Yes.
made it big and gotten test status. They've pretty much been the same team. You've always heard of them being a sleeping giant, but that's the extent of it. Afghanistan, on the other hand, have shown how quickly you can make that kind of progress in the sport. Because again, you're talking about 2015 would have been their first time winning an ICC tournament game
Yes.
when they beat Scotland, if I'm not mistaken, in the ODI World Cup.
That was the
And
ODI
from
World
there,
Cup, but they made
yeah.
the T20 debut way back in 2010.
No, I'm talking about the first win. Yeah, debut I know they made in
Yeah.
2010. From that
Yeah.
first win in 2015, less than a decade later, they are now semi-finalists in a ICC tournament. That's massive. No matter which way you look at it, even keeping aside, of course, the natural struggle that a lot of these players would have had to go through to even be playing the sport, it's very inspirational, and you can't help but feel happy for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if we look at it, from the perspective of how the things have really gone behind the scenes, I think a lot has changed since the arrival of Jonathan Trott. He's tactically very smart. I'll specifically take the example of the Sri Lanka game during the 2023 World Cup, wherein they required 240 or to win the match. So the goal was clear: the 50 runs in every 10 overs. So that's what the even the placard also show in the dugout. So that's one of the best things that has happened with Afghanistan, that they've broken their bigger goal into shorter goals. And if you look at the group stage of this T20 World Cup also, the performances they put in apart from that game against West Indies, I think they have been exemplary so far. And that's what I think it is all about. It's not just about making sure that, just one or two players are stepping up. It's about the matchups, and it's about everyone who has basically rose to the occasion. You look at a certain Naveen Ullah, you look at Fazal Faruqi, who has been this standout bowler so far. And even the best part about Afghanistan is that despite having a shaky middle order, their top order of the openers are basically making sure that, okay, let's just see and get the job done for the team. You look at the game against Australia; they were around 118 in for no loss in 16 overs. From one perspective, you can obviously say that, okay, they didn't really, fire, and that's why they could just collapse to 148. But then Australia also made a mistake, or Australia could not get those crucial wickets in the first 16 overs. That's what I think Afghanistan's grit is all about now. They are determined, they're ready, and I won't be surprised, and I'm going to make this bold prediction that I won't be surprised that they go on to beat South Africa in the semi-final, who themselves have this, C word attached to them when it comes to the semi-finals and the finals. And for Afghanistan, I think one thing is for sure, they have nothing to lose. Absolutely. Out of all the four teams in the semi-finals, India versus England, Afghanistan versus semi-final, there is only one team that has nothing to lose, and it is Afghanistan, because they have achieved more than what was probably expected out of them. And if they go a one step further in this tournament, I'm going to tell you that this is going to be like the best or the gold mine moment of Afghanistan cricket.
In fact, Siddharth, maybe not just one. There's two counts on which they've overachieved, as much of the cricketing world would look at it. Perhaps, though, it is up for debate whether it should be looked at it that way or not. Because remember, it wasn't Afghanistan who were expected to ultimately get the C1 seeding. It was New Zealand from that group that you all expected. So that's the first count on which they perhaps overshot. The second,
I never expected New Zealand to go through. I was the one who said that
I
Afghanistan and
I
West Indies
remember
will
you
go
saying,
through.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. To much of the cricketing world, this will still remain one of the big takeaways of the tournament till now, or one of the more unexpected things to happen. That was the first thing. Second, once you saw them pitted in a group that had the likes of an India and Australia, you again didn't give them that big a chance. You thought that the two giants in India and Australia would be the ones to go through, and now on the second count, also they went gone ahead and surprised everyone. It will be quite a story. It has made for a lot of great cinema already. A couple of their matches have been thrillers as far as Afghanistan are concerned. Today, though, probably tops the list with the Liton Kumar Das standing in the line of them and the semi final. It'll be interesting to see if this is a team that can go ahead and now reach the final as well. It could be then, and it'll have to be from an Indian perspective if you hope India are to do the reverse of 2022 on Thursday night as per Indian Standard Time. Uh, that they go ahead and beat South Africa, and then of course it'll be interesting if India can meet their neighbors in Afghanistan in the final as well of the T20 World Cup. So every possibility is still over there as far as what those combinations could be. But just so that everyone knows, second semi-final, that's what it's going to be. India taking on England. The first semi-final, South Africa versus Afghanistan.
Yeah, and don't forget that'll be early in the morning, the South Africa versus Afghanistan game, India Standard
Yes.
Time on Thursday. And I think that's one game. I mean, let's be honest, there have been times, especially for us people who are covering all these games, that getting up or watching these matches, because again, you're watching them late night, then getting up early morning can be a bit of a show. But oh my God, I think I can't be the only one who's looking forward to getting up Thursday morning and actually being able to watch this match from the get go, because I think it's going to be an absolute thriller. Again, two teams that have shown in Afghanistan and South Africa that they have the ability to kind of edge out close games. South Africa more so in particular, but even Afghanistan have been on the receiving end of a couple of very close games. Even today, I mean, let's be fair. After a point, even though Bangladesh had no hope of winning it in 13 overs, the equation still very much favored them. And see, who are the ones who stepped up? It's more often than not the more experienced players. Rashid got 2 wickets in 2 balls. That really changed the complexion of the game. Then you had a Naveen who, in that last over of his, in the penultimate over of the game, pretty much turned the game around with those 2 balls. Again, got you 2 wickets. yeah, there was a bit of an element of luck in the Mustafizur Rahman dismissal because it stayed
Yes.
very, very
Very
low.
low.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of the beast, and that is more often than not even pressure telling that you can actually that this pitch was a bit on the sluggish side. It stayed a little low, and that's all she wrote. Good night as far as Bangladesh are concerned, and really I think it's very interesting that this match happened between these two sides because it's a very interesting case study on progress as far as sport is concerned. Because as I was mentioning, Bangladesh really are one of those teams that I wouldn't say they've regressed, but their progress has stagnated. They've been pretty much the same side throughout their
Yes.
existence in international cricket.
The one thing I though, and maybe you guys can correct me. The one thing I think that Bangladesh hold as a distinction as a test playing nation still remains. Yes, they've dwindled, but I still think they got their first test win much earlier than some of the other cricketing giants of modern day. So it's a nation that started with showing a lot of progress in the early days, but yeah, that they can still sort of hold their head high, saying that listen, we got that first test win much before an India could do it, much before some of the other nations could do it as well. Yeah, 2001, I believe, is when they got the test status, and they got their first win much before. That's what I recall. But I do sort of agree with you, Shane, that yes, even in this match, if you were to pick one team, maybe it was as Nikhil was saying yesterday, I believe there was perhaps 70-30 in Afghanistan's favor. ODI cricket, though, maybe there's still work to be done. It's a format that can be tricky at times, and not all teams that find success in the shortest format. In fact, all players who find success in the shortest format can't really replicate that in the game's extended version. Just ask Surya Kumar Yadav that. But that holds true for teams as well. But Afghanistan really nailed it as far as T20 cricket is concerned, and that raw emotion that you see in some of the fans and the players alike right now, that speaks of 1,000 words. It tells so many stories. I remember seeing those images from Kabul and a couple of other cities as well, where people had thronged the streets. You expect wilder scenes and a bigger party to be happening already. And yeah, it is a nation that does deserve a lot of it, despite everything that's been happening as far as politics of the nation is concerned. There's been some turmoil over the last couple of years as well, but regardless, the cricket has stayed aloft, and the cricket is making the headlines.
Absolutely. And see, that's the thing. That's what we're looking at it from that perspective. We were talking about ODI cricket. Lest we forget, Afghanistan were one free Glenn Maxwell innings away from actually making it to the semis there also. So they are definitely no longer, I wouldn't call them minnows for sure. They are
Yeah.
definitely in that, if you're talking about a grade A plus level team, they are right now at grade A because they are one of those teams who, on their day, in the right conditions, can beat anyone. There's a lot of young talent in that team, and I think in 2, 3, 4 years' time, you're going to be seeing them as legitimate contenders. And as Siddharth rightly pointed out, I think they are now the second best team in Asia because, again, Sri Lanka have regressed for years. Pakistan, same situation. That turmoil more often than not ends up being their undoing. Bangladesh, again, haven't regressed, but they've never progressed. So they've been kind of stuck. Their cricket is stuck in the same generation. I mean, it's pretty telling, and I think one thing which really tells a story about Bangladesh cricket is the fact that in Rashad Hussain, their leg spinner, he's probably one of the first leg spinners to have ever played for Bangladesh because they don't favor leg spinners at all. It tells you
Yes.
everything about how backward. I'm going to use that word knowingly. Their white ball cricket is that they prefer having finger spinners because the logic is that finger spinners will be economical. They don't want wicket taking spin options, and that is not a national team sort of a diktat. It is a diktat or an unofficial rule that has been about in their club cricket. So because their club cricket is very much the lifeblood for the national team, you don't see wrist spinners make it because these club teams don't want wrist spinners. They want spinners who will control the flow of runs, which is why if you look at the history of Bangladesh, you've had some good finger spinners. Even now, you've got, there's a Najmal Hussain Shanto there who can give you good leg spin. There's a Mehdi Hassan in ODI formats. Shakib has been there for ages. But try naming leg spinners. There are none because they don't encourage those wrist spinners. And we are now in an era where in white ball cricket, when you're talking about spinners, it's wrist spinners who rule the roost. They've got their first one now. That's how behind they are. That is the best, it's a microcosm of how their cricket has stagnated, that they are still favoring, finger spinners who will be economical rather than looking for attacking, wicket taking options who will get the job done in terms of, getting them wickets. Again, I always say that in white ball cricket, 10 balls are all you need to swing the game. 10 good balls. That's it. Because if you can get the team all out, then it doesn't matter how many runs you're going for later on. It won't. But with Bangladesh, the thought process is very old school. Oh, we'll have spinners who will control the flow of runs. Not how it works. Of course, whether or not that changes in the near future remains to be seen. But I think Afghanistan, in that case, are a good case study for them because what is it that has driven most of Afghanistan's success? It's been wrist spinners. It's been attacking bowlers. Bangladesh have never had that. They need that. Otherwise, they'll still be stuck in that same early 2000s style of cricket, whereas the world has moved faster. So that is, I think, their major concern.
And I think this tournament is also the coming of age for Rashid Khan, the skipper. If you remember, Rashid Khan was appointed as Afghanistan skipper in the past also, but didn't really have the success that to begin with. But now the way he has led the team has been very, very good with those decisions. You look at the decision to have Gulbadin Naib versus Australia, that turned out to be a masterstroke in honest fail. And once again to give Naveen the over just to make it just to tell him, okay, you are our you're the most experienced pacer here. I want you to get the job done. The way Naveen went about his business. You look at the two balls. The first one to Taskin Ahmed was specifically, I think it was planned to make sure that okay, let's just give him a cutter and see how things happen. But luckily, from Afghanistan's perspective, it kept low, and that made sure that that was pretty much the game for them. And then secondly, I think the ball to Mustafizur Rahman, a perfect Naveen Ulaq delivery, something that he's known for. Just to make sure, just pitch it in the right area and let the surface do the rest. And that's what happened. I think the captaincy is also there. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of backing. The goal wasn't to just make sure that okay, we have to maybe somehow just restrict them, and even if we don't get the remaining two wickets, we can still win the game by restricting the run flow. The goal was to basically make sure okay, just two more good balls and we'll be okay. So that was
Correct.
the best thing about Rashid Khan's captaincy, that constantly there was a talk. Then Zadran was there. Then obviously Nabi was there. They missed Gurbaz's wicket keeping because I think he was injured. Then had Mohammad Ishaq as the replacement keeper. But then Gurbaz once again played that useful knock also. So I think Afghanistan are definitely on the rise. No doubts about that. What they just need to make sure is that they just continue this thing, because it's very hard to keep up with the big three or the cricketing giants there, and that's what I think they'll be. That will be their next goal, and something that as I said earlier, that out of the four semi-finalists, if there is only one team that has nothing to lose, it is Afghanistan, and that makes you even more dangerous.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's take some comments. A lot of comments coming in from our family members. So you've got, let's say, one from Vishal Panchal. He's saying there is 1 a.m. and this match has kept me awake. It was an amazing match, had excitement, emotions, and naive drama too. India versus Afghanistan final is his prediction. Wow, that'll be quite something if it happens. You've got Ashish Dhar says that one of your family members was mentioning Jadeja 45. He was talking about Ajay
Okay.
Jadeja versus Pakistan in '96. Yeah, all of us went Ravindra Jadeja's route. We forgot about Ajay. And he mentions also that Jonathan Trott recreating the Javed Mirdad by giving instructions to Gulbuddin. Yeah, and Gulbuddin, by the way, followed them to a T. So good on him in that sense. That he was also someone, I think he's being seen as something like their man with a golden arm, because they just tend to bring him in whenever they need big wickets, and he tends to deliver it more often than not. Useful batter as
Yes.
well. I remember Gulbuddin in 2019, he was randomly appointed captain, ended up becoming the butt of a lot of jokes because just before the World Cup, the Afghan Cricket Board got rid of, I think it was Asghar Afghan, who was their captain at that
Yes.
point in time. And Gulbuddin became the bit of a butt of jokes because he was also a bit of a bumbling speaker in the press conferences. So some of his sound bites kind of went viral. But now I think he's reinvented himself nicely as a player. Don't need to put the captaincy pressure on him, but he's definitely a match winner for sure. Then you've got Sarat Chandra here saying that what is Litton Das doing giving strike to tail enders? and joking, saying that Gulbuddin red card and banned for the next match. Yeah, I think he took his t-shirt off, didn't he, Gulbuddin? The muscle man had to flex his muscles. So to do that, of course, needs to take his t-shirt off. What a man, though! What a man! Let's see. You've got Priyanshu as well saying that South Africa, Afghanistan, both teams like batting first. Toss will be crucial. India's most
Yes.
tricky match is the semi. Agreed. I have confidence that we'll beat either of South Africa or Afghanistan in the final should we get there. And Gulbuddin is better than Rizwan in that thing. Yeah, to be fair, this is the same Gulbuddin who had pulled up in the slips, and I remember Rashid was less than happy because he was talking to him and saying, "Listen, what are you doing? I need you fit for the, later on." To be fair, though, at least he recovered, gave them a good couple of overs later on as well. So let's see if there's any more comments we can take. We'll just take one more, then call it, a quits because, I was supposed to be in office at 11. It's already 11. Kuldeep Sharan says South Africa will be happy with this now. For the first time, they'll play in the final of an ICC tournament. Kuldeep, point well taken, but I will say write this Afghanistan team off at your own peril. At your own peril at this point in time. Anyhow, we'll take your leave now. We've been going on for more than 20 minutes, but this was a fun discussion, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell. Stay tuned to Sports Day. Plenty more coming your way. Right now, though, from Siddharth, Harshit, and me, it is goodbye.